Happy Hump Day. Welcome back to the United Pubcast. It's Larry, your host. With me is Tom, and I'll be the one taking you through day by day, story by story, beer by beer. Tom, have you got your beer, by the way?
No, I'm all out, all out. I'm stuck on the waters for tonight.
No,
Preparing
good
myself for the
stuff.
weekend. Assuming the weekend goes ahead, who knows what's going to happen? But I'm sure we'll definitely cover that a little bit later on.
Great stuff. Stay hydrated. I'll be your host today. Something a little bit different. We'll let Tom sit back and relax. The reports coming out of Rudy Hill. Tom's been doing a lot of housekeeping, so we will let him relax. But Tom, the news doesn't slow down. Now we would have liked to be here reviewing a Manchester United game against Brentford. Wasn't to be, but there's lots to dissect. As the thumbnail of this video will tell you, we're here to discuss Pogba and Anthony Martial. Au revoir, if you like, because both players may not be here in a few months' time. So we'll discuss Pogba and Martial. We'll obviously talk about the Brighton match upcoming, whether that will go ahead or not. And we'll give you, we'll talk about Anthony Rudiger. Some rumors now starting to build some momentum, whether the German may be heading to Old Trafford. And finally, we'll give you a 3-2-1s update. Here's your little caveat. There is someone absolutely running away with it. But if you are here, make sure you do like the video and do subscribe. Tom, we won't waste any time. I'm going to start with, before we start with a Frenchman, can I just ask you, do you fancy French food? Is there any sort of recipe or sort of dish you like in the French cuisine?
Well, I was looking forward. I remember the one time I went to Paris, or I was there with my wife, girlfriend at the time, and thinking, okay, this would be really good. We can try some French cuisine. I could not, for the life of me, walking around Paris for 3 days, could not for the life of me find any French food. Every single restaurant I found was an Italian restaurant in the middle of Paris. So can't say I've really. It's one of those cuisines never really sort of. Everyone sort of talks about snails. I'm not eating snails. I'm not getting involved in that. But it's not something I've sort of eaten too often, really. Pretty much every restaurant in Paris was Italian.
You're missing out if you haven't tried a good duck confit. You know, around Sydney there are some belting French restaurants.
I got a
I'll have
French
to
frog.
take you away.
Is it Four Frogs? French frogs? Four Frogs? The crepes place. It's not really French, but
You've
yeah,
got
they
the
call
little
it.
snail right across the road from Piedmont Bridge Hotel. You didn't even
Testing my
think to
memory
try
there,
that.
mate. You're testing my memory there. Somewhere in Darwin Harbour, I guess.
Oh, geez, poor effort. All right, well, let's actually talk about the real French exquisite, starting with Anthony Martial, Tom. And we've seen his agent come out last week. He was basically scathing. He says, Anthony Martial, my client, wishes to leave in January. He needs to play. It's as simple as that. I will be speaking with the club soon. We then have Ralph Rangnick questions about that in his presser, and he says, Anthony hasn't come and spoken to me. Until he does, I'm just going to assume that everything's the status quo. What do you make of this one? Do you think Martial is edging towards an exit, and do you agree with it? Do you not agree with it? What are your thoughts?
In terms of the way it has come out, I agree with it in regards to if that is the case, his agent has come out and spoken publicly about it. He has to go. I think 1st of January, or the club should be doing the business now. So 1st of January, best for both parties that he moves on. Now, this has been the case for Anthony Martial really early in his time. I think it was maybe in his second season. He was starting, that was obviously Jose Mourinho's first season. He was linked with moves back to, or not back to Spain, but to a few clubs in Spain type of thing. And it's always been sort of bubbling under the surface kind of thing. But you always thought, well, nothing too reliable. They're just rumours. The name's just out there. He's just linking him because he's a big player for Man United. Maybe not getting game time. So you thought, okay, there's a story. However, the thing that changes this dynamic is the agent has come out and publicly said Martial wants to leave and he's going to leave. And Ralph Rangnick has obviously pretty much confirmed those thoughts. It's saying, yeah, Martial's definitely not, I wouldn't say not in his plans, but he's happy to let him go if the agent does want to sort of move him on. So that is why this move does seem a little bit more close and a little bit more reliable. And it's best. Look, we've had this debate every couple of weeks, Martial. Who's better, Rashford or Martial? Who's better form? Who suits the left wing? Who's a striker? Who's going to have the better career? We have this debate about Martial all the time. But the main debate we should be having about Martial throughout that whole period of time was, is he good enough to get into the first team? Now, obviously, the quality-wise, yes, 100% he is. But we're having debates. Can he fulfill his potential? Like the title below says, can he win a Ballon d'Or? Can he lead United to a Premier League title? Where the debate we really should have been having for the past 5-6 years is, can he nail down a spot for 10 games in a row? And overall, he hasn't done that in his time at United. And look, he has been here a while now. Was it 2015? It's 6 years later. It's 2021 now. If you're still having that same debate, which I'm sure will go on to Paul Pogba, it's a very similar situation. If that is the case, if someone does want to pay him some money in January, happy to move him on. I think he's a great player, but the time has come for me.
Get your comments in, and we will continue the Anthony Martial debate, but we've got Emad in the comments. Evening, boys. Evening, mates. Ian, hi, lads. Great to have you, Ian. We've got Josh. The closest thing to French Tom's had is French fries. Oh, that's so true. That's so true. Tom loves a meat lover's pizza, and he'll swear to you that's Italian. Email, we've got escargots aren't bad at all. Oh, yeah, I love French food. I'm all over that.
Drop the T, Larry.
Huh?
Escargots, not escargots.
Oh, so look at you trying to be French now, eh?
He's the French one here.
Fries, and he's going to teach me how to speak French. Yeah, all right.
Escargots. I like that one.
Escargots now. We've got Justin in the comments. Evening, mates. We've got George. Hello, lads. And then we've got Ian. He thinks it's time for Tony to go. We've got Emad as well. Probably overstayed his welcome. Emad saying Pogba as well. Man United are bigger than any player. Pogba can go too. So that's Ian there. Definitely mixed ones. And we got Josh as well. Martial's time at MUFC is the epitome of moments. FC delivers memories I'll never forget, but like Liverpool and Everton at Wembley, but never had that consistency. Let me ask you, Tom, around Anthony Martial, and I think I do agree with you. I think if you're leaning towards whether he should stay or go, you are leaning towards the latter there. But it is purely a case of unfulfilled potential, isn't it? I mean, there are some players where they come to United, you say you weren't good enough. Sometimes it's the application and the attitude. I think of Memphis Depay there. But you look at Anthony Martial, has all the ingredients to be successful. Why hasn't he fulfilled his potential? We can all see what he's capable of. Why hasn't he been able to kick on?
I think potential is an interesting word in regards to, yes, on the outlook, I completely agree. He hasn't fulfilled it and the potential is there. But we have this debate around so many players, and maybe it's just he is what he is. Like we're going to have the debate with Paul Pogba, and maybe he doesn't have that potential. His all-round play is going to be inconsistent. It's going to be moments of brilliance and then sort of moments where he flatters to deceive type of thing. Maybe that was his ceiling. Maybe his ceiling wasn't Ballon d'Or, which obviously United thought at the time when they were buying him from Monaco, which is why he cost so much money. Maybe that was never the case with Anthony Martial. Maybe this player is just what he is. And overall, yes, on the outlook, I do look at it and why didn't he fulfill his potential? I think a few reasons. I think the makeup of the squad at the time in regards to was he a left winger, was he a striker? We had the debate every 2 weeks saying,
I still don't know what he is.
He's a centre forward, and then he has a game at centre forward. So he's not a centre forward; he's a left winger. Then he has a game at left wing. So, no, he's a centre forward again. We always had that debate. I'm sure managers and coaches are having that debate. Even him personally, he maybe never found that sort of answer for himself. And if he can't find that answer for himself, he's always going to be a little bit behind in the pecking order, which is ultimately proved true. So yeah, he hasn't fulfilled the potential, but he's still ultimately. Well, I don't know if we're going to get into rating his time at United or not. Ultimately, take away the price tag and sort of the dramas around it. He's been a decent signing. He's been actually a very good signing when you think about it. In terms of when a lot of players his age do come into the club, he has been a good signing, but yeah, it does leave with a sense of sort of frustration and sort of unfulfilled potential.
We've got Powell in the comments. Tony has to go. Pogba definitely has to go. Yeah, we'll definitely be talking about Paul Pogba. Got Emad. Martial's hit his ceiling. That's an interesting take. He's just turned 26. Got Ian. Don't think Tony can take pressure when somebody comes in who can take his place. He bottles it. I think that's a really fair point, to be honest. You look at... Sorry, I'm saying that's an unfair... I'm going to say that's an unfair point, sorry. Because if I look at his treatment under Jose, particularly when Alexis Sanchez came in, if you can think back, and that would have been, 4 seasons ago now, Martial was absolutely flying. If you can recall the start of that season, Tom, him and Rashford had a bit of a thing going. One would start, the other one would come on, score a goal, and that went on for a bit. But Martial really solidified his spot. United were top of the league at the time. And then we signed Alexis Sanchez. And then Martial's, initially we thought, how's this going to... We all thought maybe you move Alexis to the right, given Martial's form. That's how good he was going. We then saw Martial move to the right. I believe it was against Tottenham at the time. And then suddenly he has a poor game, and then he was dropped, and then the rumors around him leaving start to beat the drum there. So do you agree that it's been his application that's been a problem with Martial, or do you think it's just been perhaps at least under Mourinho, you can say it was genuinely mistreatment, and maybe at a crucial point in his career as well, where he needed a run of games.
You'd say mistreatment, and from Martial, he could look at Mourinho and use the mistreatment card, and I'd completely agree. However, that is football. That's football at the elite level. Great players are going to have great managers come in, and there's going to be a clash just because a good player, a fantastic midfielder. Look at Scholes, Gerard Lampard. Yeah, for England, it didn't work. Sometimes managers and players just aren't compatible, and players and managers had to deal with that situation to get the best out of each other. And Martial, yeah, maybe could have done more when Jose Mourinho came in. Maybe Mourinho could have done more. But that is football. You have to make the situation work. Not every player under Fergie got on with Fergie, but they made a situation. Ferguson said, okay, I'll know how to deal with him. Oh, I don't like him. I don't like him as a person, but I'll get something out of him. The players, thinking, why is he putting me on the bench? What's Ferguson doing? He's sort of too strict with everyone, but I'm going to make it work. I'm going to sort of fight for my cause and sort of fight for the club type thing. They made it work. Anthony Martial ultimately hasn't made it work. Now, obviously, there's outside factors in regards to the managers and everything. And I think one of the things a little bit unfair on Anthony Martial, maybe and look, we can sort of point the finger at individuals as well, but he's had a little bit of unlucky run with injuries. I wouldn't say call him injury prone, but I think it's sort of bad timings. He's sort of picked up one or two little knocks where you think, he could have done without that. We could have continued a little bit of good form. And yeah, I think it's just one of those careers. I think we're going to look back in 10 years. Let's say he leaves in January. We're going to look back in 10 years and think, yeah, Martial, yeah, good player, great player at times, just never quite got going, just one of those players. And yeah, I think there might be a little bit of an overreaction to everything around Anthony Martial at the moment. I think there's been worse players, there's been better players. We move on.
Okay, well, I won't give you a rating. I think we can save that for when he inevitably does leave United. But let me just ask you this. 50 million, is it down the drain or value for money?
It's how when you say the words 50 million, you think, oh my God, that is a lot of money to waste. But then you look at what players go for now, and that was back in 2015 type thing. So I take away the money and just look at a young French footballer coming in from France at a young age into the biggest club in the world when we're in a tricky spot under Louis van Gaal type thing. He's done well. Not many young players come into Man United and do that with that kind of pressure. Ultimately, he has done very well. Now, when you take in the whole baggage and how it's unfolded and the price tag in terms of the way that was reported, you could make a case, I wouldn't agree, but you could make a case that it's been a flop and it hasn't worked out. I think, I don't know, a rating out of 10, a generous 6.5 out of 10, at moments a 5 out of 10, then sometimes a 7 out of 10 type thing. It's one of those signings for me. It'll split opinion, and almost rightly so. I can see both sides of the argument. But it's just one of those, unfortunately, for me.
One of the greatest debuts I've ever seen. I'll give him that. It was a bloody breathtaking goal. The way he came on and, what a way for an 18-year-old to announce himself to the Old Trafford.
Do you think that helped him, that debut? Obviously, he went on to have a very good season, but did that change expectations and what we did want from Anthony Martial? If he just came on in just a normal season, that first season, and sort of progressed slowly rather than be our player of the season, top goal scorer kind of thing, do you think that first season ultimately sort of hampered him a little bit?
I don't think so. I mean, look, you can say, why don't we treat him like an ordinary player? Well, the truth is what he did was extraordinary. It wasn't something that every 18-year-old is meant to do. Even Mason Greenwood, if you can think of his debut against PSG, doesn't come on and do anything of note. Tahith Chong must have gave the ball away at least 8 times in the 10 minutes he was on the pitch for PSG in the PSG match. But that's my point. The fact he wasn't overawed, the fact he had the composure, the brilliance to turn Skirtle inside out, basically end his Liverpool career. It's one for the ages. So, dream debut for him. And look, I'd be sad if he eventually leaves, but bloody hell, at least he announced himself in bloody style. All right, Tom, from one Frenchman to another, from frog legs to duck confit. Let's talk about Paul Pogba. It's almost a boring debate. It gets made redundant at times, but let's talk about this one. Now, we've seen Mino Raiola's comments earlier, late last week. He's basically mentioned all the big names around Erling Haaland's transfer, and it reminds you of all the reasons why you don't want to deal with Mino Raiola and why you don't want to almost deal with Paul Pogba. We then come forward. Raiola's almost backtracked a little bit. He's then later come out and made comments to the effect of, when I say interest in Erling Haaland, there are 15 European clubs. He's suddenly backtracking there. With the Paul Pogba situation, he mentions that there are a number of clubs interested, including United. What do you make of this one? Firstly, let me ask you: do you think Paul Pogba will leave? Then let me ask you: if you're United, how would you be handling this situation? We're approaching the end of December. As of 1 January, he can negotiate with other clubs. So break that all down for me.
Do I think you leave? Yes, I think you leave because ultimately, look, he's a French footballer. He owes nothing to United in regards to. Okay, yes, he did come. He's almost his young player, a youth team player, so he obviously does have a connection. But he obviously has dreams of whether it be Real Madrid. I don't think he dreamt of playing for PSG, but obviously the landscape of football has changed. So there is an appeal to go to PSG. But let's say he wants to go to Real Madrid. That's something he wants to do in his career, tick off the list. Feel free, go and do it. Who am I to stand in your way type thing? And ultimately, if he has Mino Raiola in his corner, that's a huge financial decision because obviously they can go in instead of paying a transfer fee for him, was a £100 million player, they can bump that onto his wages, and Mino Raiola and Paul Pogba can set themselves up for life. Why should we stand in their way? If Pogba wants to do that, feel free. I'm not going to criticise anyone for chasing that type of money. I'll do exactly the same now. But when that type of money, what's he going to be on? 500 grand a week, 600 grand a week if he's out of contract type thing. It's going to be a bumper contract. Fair play to him. How should the club handle it? I think it's hard because you're not going to get what you want from him in January. But then, okay, if you keep the player who doesn't want to commit his future to United, then you've got that sort of unhappy player in the camp. You think, how does that affect things? I think you need to sit him down and get someone in there, whether that be a Ronaldo or a Rangnick, if he has that kind of respect, or a Patrice Evra. Get someone in there, Sir Alex Ferguson, sit him down and say, okay, look, you're going in a few months' time. Feel free. Okay, that's your prerogative. You've done well at United, or some people say he hasn't done well, but your time at United's been what it has been. You have to give this next 6 months, or what will it be, 5 months, January to May. You have to give this your all. One, obviously, he's going to be in the French team, but you can motivate him by saying you got the upcoming World Cup you need to prepare yourself for. If you're going in, mate, well, a club might change their mind. They've got a few months to change their mind if they see a lack of professionalism by you. So you need to buckle down and do something. And also, okay, one thing, you look at Cristiano Ronaldo, the greatest player of all time. He's not motivated by money anymore. He's motivated by trophies. 5 months, can you get a trophy under your belt with United again? And I think you just got to find a way to motivate him for these 5 months because ultimately you're not going to get, the club isn't going to get what they want for him in January. So you have to get the best out of him from January to May. If you can sell him for, I don't know, what would you want for January? 40 million for him? Type thing, 30, 40 million for him? Okay, you take that maybe. But ultimately that's not going to happen. So you're going to have to find a way. I don't know if that's Rangnick or someone above him or a player, just get some motivation out of him. And now I'm sure he's motivated enough. He's a professional footballer. When he goes on the field, he wants to do well. But here we are having a debate: is he motivated? So if there is a doubt or if there is a question, maybe where there's smoke, there's fire.
Interesting comments. We will continue the Paul Pogba debate, but get your comments in. Where do you sit on the Paul Pogba conundrum? Do you think he should stay United? Do you think he should leave? Do you think the board should look to sell? Well, I'd say prized asset, but he clearly won't be. They're definitely going to be taking a loss on that £90 million investment. So get your comments in. I will come to the comments now, Tom, and then I will ask you a few more questions on Paul Pogba. I've got Josh. Really interesting comment here. Will he become world-class somewhere else? Probably not for me. What do you make of that one, Tom? Is Paul Pogba world-class?
Yeah, if we had a dictionary, had a definition of world-class, it would make that answer a lot easier. Yes, he is. And then if someone says he isn't because of consistency, I would completely agree with them and understand that point of view. I have a look at it, and I think as a midfielder, he has everything. We talk about potential, where he has everything to be the best midfielder in world football. He has it all, except the consistency and maybe at times a sort of a perceived lack of motivation type thing. So there is a fear. If he leaves and goes to a Real Madrid type thing, you can see a situation where Paul Pogba is lifting Champions League with Real Madrid. You can see that image in your head. That's something that happens in football. You'd obviously prefer that to happen at Man United. So he definitely could kick on in his career. But ultimately, we've been having this debate, especially around Paul Pogba in the last couple of months, saying, like I think it was Paul Scholes or Roy Keane was making the point, which we've always agreed with. Well, at 30, what is he now, 27, 28 type thing?
28.
At 35, 36, he'll be doing the same things. And I can very much see that, where he's standing on the ball, rolling the ball under his studs and then losing the ball, or someone running past him. He's going to be making, if he hasn't fixed those errors in his game now, he's just simply not going to fix them. And that is where we go into that sort of term potential. Maybe it isn't potential. Maybe he just is what he is. And I look at that, I'll throw the question to you in regards to a contract. Should we give him a new contract? It's always an interesting debate in terms of, well, football, but I assume athletes in general, so sports people in general. handing out these big contracts is such a tricky situation for a club, because what are you putting a contract out there for? What are you telling the player? The only thing you're given a contract for is past performances. That's all you can go. You don't know what a player is going to do in the future. You can only go on what they've done for you in the past or what they've done elsewhere in the past. So if you're going to lay out this huge amount of money, you don't know. You can't predict the future. And
Well,
has
then,
Pogba
on
deserved
that
that?
point, Tom, and I'm sorry to interrupt you, but on that point, if we are paying for past performances, does his past performance warrant being the
Yeah.
highest paid player at Manchester United? The answer is no
Yeah.
for me.
Well, here's a question I'll throw to you, and in the live chat as well, answer this one in terms of, let's throw a hypothetical scenario. Two midfielders go into their contract runs out tomorrow. Paul Pogba, Scott McTominay, their contracts run out tomorrow. They both walk into the boardroom. You, as CEO, have a decision. You can give one of them a new contract. I don't know what's a standard increase, a 10% wage increase, and a new 3-year contract. McTominay or Paul Pogba, which one are you giving the contract to?
Well, value for money, I'd actually be going Scott McTominay.
But the whole thing, the whole thing, footballer package, Manchester United, everything. You got
Well,
make
I
one
think that's
decision.
the problem with Pogba. Like me
But,
personally,
but
I'm
if we're
saying
having
Scott.
that debate, the answer is McTominay. If we're thinking, oh, I'm not sure, that means the answer is McTominay.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think from a Manchester United perspective, look, whether rightly or wrongly, and you can debate the Glazers or any other else, any major football club in the world football would look at Paul Pogba as a brand, because he is a brand. There's no denying that he attracts sales, he attracts marketing opportunities, he attracts sponsorship. So when you look at him as a package, rightly or wrongly, he's attractive, and that's the issue. But that's where I feel United are getting stuck in this trap here. And I wonder with Ralph Rangnick whether he's had a word with the board, whether he's actually considering, I'm going to make these statements in the media to force his hand. If this guy wants to commit to the club, he'll either do it or he won't. But yeah, for me, regardless of the player, I think it's time to move on. You look at the level of performance, you look at the level of consistency. His injury record isn't spoken about enough. It's appalling. He's not fit for United. He spends 2 to 3 months out every single season. I just don't think he's worth that sort of coin. Well, that's the thing. I think, look, what you'll free up in wages alone. Look, United should have dealt with this 2 seasons ago when you could have gotten a transfer fee for him. I think COVID was really unfortunate for us. I think if you rewinded 2 seasons ago, I actually think he would have been sold. But look, it is what it is. They've mishandled the situation, absolutely. But for the wages he'll free up, Tom, I think with that money alone, you can buy 2 really capable midfielders who maybe don't have the passing range of a Paul Pogba, but they'll have better discipline. I think what Tielemans at Leicester offers you as a player. Now, Paul Pogba has more talent than Tielemans, but I think you put this player in, you put the Belgian in United's midfield, we're a better side. I don't think there's any debate there. So I'll come to a few more comments and we will move on. We've got Emad. You're right, Josh. He won't. Talking about Pogba being world class. He doesn't have the hunger, heart, or mentality. He's like a child in daycare. Look, I think that is a bit harsh. You don't become a World Cup winner by not having heart or hunger or mentality. I'm sure Pogba strives to be the best. I think, Tom, what do you make of this? Is it the fancy hairstyles? Is it the way he posts on social media that make this perception that's not there?
I think the perception, a lot of it comes in Pogba and Martial, put them in the same category. It's their body language. It's the way they move. It does look like they don't care, and that's just who they are. When Paul Pogba is moving in a World Cup final, he's moving the exact same as he does when he's at Norwich away. It's just how he looks. But when it looks like he's lifting a World Cup, we perceive it as effort. When we see it at Norwich away, we think, oh, he's not trying. It's the same thing. It's just their body language, and it's how we as fans react to that, because we want to see something different. We want to see Carlos Tevez or Edison Cavani like busting their gut around the pitch. And ultimately, it's just one of those things. I think they're hard done by. And sometimes as a player, when you are a brand like Paul Pogba and even Anthony Martial to an extent, they're things you can fix. They're things you can run a little bit harder, sort of thing. And I think it's harsh, but I can understand the arguments like that, definitely. Because I've felt them when we're losing games and the performances aren't there. I've sort of labelled those accusations in the heat of the moment.
Look at Pogba's last game for United. He comes on halftime sub against Liverpool. We're 4-0 down. Goes and gets himself sent off.
I questioned his professionalism there. I said not a red card on purpose, but he knew what he's doing. He looked for a way out. I've been in a position like that. Sometimes you just think, I'll leave the players out here. I don't want to be losing 5-0. How can I get out of this situation? I can go through someone, maybe take some blood. I forget who the tackle was on, but it wasn't a Paul Pogba tackle. He went in there and hurt the guy. And enough about Paul Pogba. We'll try and move on.
Yep. We've got Josh, too much baggage on Paul Pogba. Got Wayne Arnold, new one in the comments, mate. So cheers for tuning in. Martial and Pogba has years to show their class on a consistent basis, but they haven't. Agents of these two not helping them staying. Yeah, you're not wrong, mate. You're not wrong there. And you've got another comment here from Cape Town, South Africa. Cheers, mate. Really appreciate you tuning in. So yeah, please hope we get to see you on here more
Just
regularly.
on that comment there from Wayne, that first one, it would have been interesting whether Martial, I'm not quite sure, but let's just focus on Paul Pogba. What career he would have had at, just overall, but especially at United, if Mino Raiola wasn't his agent.
That is interesting. That's an interesting point, and that's the thing. I think a lot of I've seen split arguments on Mino Raiola, and to be fair, he is a video on his own, Tom, simply because he takes up the whole thumbnail. But I'll be serious for a moment here. I think with Mino Raiola, he absolutely gets his clients what they want in terms of he'll maximize their value. Undoubtedly, he gets them high salaries wherever they want to go. But at what expense? If you're there representing the player's interests, I would think actually a good agent should actually think about where are you going to fulfill your potential as a player? Because if you fulfill your potential as a player, maybe you'll get 100K a week less. You'll be well paid regardless. But not just that, your next contract, we won't even need to put a demand there. The offers will be there. And I think that's my criticism of him. You look at all the players Mino Raiola represents, all barring Erling Haaland, who's still young and establishing his career. Keen to see how he pans out over the next 5 years. You look at Paul Pogba, you look at Donnarumma. He's sort of in no man's land. If you look at PSG, they're still sort of trying to balance two goalkeepers at once. You wonder, actually, a player of Donnarumma's ability, wouldn't he be better off just being a clear first choice somewhere? So, I look at it, he gets top dollar, but I don't think he allows his players to fulfill their potential. And at the end of the day, it's about legacy. When a player retires, no one's sitting here saying, how much did Zinedine Zidane earn? We're talking about what a bloody wonderful footballer he was. And I think that's
just on that point there, it's amazing when we talk about Ronaldo. There was a 2-minute discussion about how much he's earning when he came from Juventus to Man United. It was, okay, he's earning this. With Paul Pogba, it's a 5-year discussion how much he's earning.
Yeah.
So it shows where the direction is there. Pogba's about the contract and the money, where Ronaldo's about the trophies. And that's not to criticise Paul Pogba too much, but that's just the fact of the matter, in my opinion.
Ronaldo's United's highest paid player. No one's blinked an eye at it because he's the best player in the world. And that's the point. That's exactly the point I'm making. So spot on there. That's the modern day player, though. Spoon-fed babies who have a sulk and when they don't get what they want. Yeah, players have influence in the dressing room. You can't deny that. Got a few comments in here, so I'll try and skim through them. We will move on from the Paul Pogba debate. Will Pogba fit into a high press system? Don't think so. Get what money you can in January, get him out the door. I don't think he'll end. I don't think he'll leave, just given that, the midfield's so light, Jamie. But look, I take your point. If there was an option to get a midfielder in, I would definitely support it. Biggest mistake United have done is thinking they can keep him here, get him on a new contract. It's going to cost a fortune. Absolutely. Essentially, he's going to go for free. He is, but we will move on from Paul Pogba. Tom, let's talk about the circus that is COVID-19. Now, I don't know about if you've heard of this. I tried to stay away from the news. There's a new variant out there, Omicron. How much do you think of a transfer fee Omicron would go for? Sounds like a hell of a signing. Sounds like one of those players that you could just put in headlights.
Well, there'll be a new one in 6 weeks. It's that sign-in where you sort of go and sort of YouTube them for a couple of hours and you convince yourself they're going to be the next big thing, and never eventuates. And this thing probably won't even eventuate to anything. Then we move on to something else, a new sign-in. So it's just one of those ones where it's frustrating because I understand that. Look, I don't understand. I think it's time to move on. I think the world needs to sort of get on with things, especially football. So, but I can understand the government's point of view and their hesitancy, and they're trying to put plans in place. I respect that. But then from a football fan, maybe we see it a little bit differently because we're so powerless to it. We're just watching on TV. We're not going to games sort of thing. We're not, say, under direct threat of sort of catching the virus type thing at football matches. We just want to see the team play on TV type thing. But I think from a Man United's point of view, it's a different situation. I fully understand that. But we're proud of what Man United did in 57-58. What did we play? Less than 2 weeks after the Munich crash. We played Sheffield Wednesday in the FA Cup. We put out a youth team and won in the FA Cup. Less than 2 weeks. It was 12 or 13 days after Munich. We've got a youth team. If a few players have COVID, leave them at home. We've got a big squad. We've got a youth team. Play them. I think we need to get on with it. And look, I understand the government and the Premier League being hesitant and trying to put protocols in place, but How long are we going to do that for? 5 years? All these different variants. Someone could make up a variant, which is, I'm not saying that's what is happening. That could happen. And then it just opened up a can of worms now, because Newcastle, if you were Newcastle, what are you doing now? There's one answer what Newcastle are doing. Tell everyone you got COVID. Postpone your next games. What have they got? 3 or 4 games before January?
Yeah.
Get them postponed. Get into that January transfer market. So it just opens up a can of worms, in my opinion. Just play. Your thoughts?
Spot on, mate. You've never said anything I've agreed with more. And that's it. I agree. It's not just football, it's the world. We just need to move on from it. And there just has to be protocols in place where we say, come hell or high water, we just need to play on. If I compare it to it here in Australia and what the NRL did in 2020, I know they were putting teams in the bubble and so forth. And I think obviously we do have to move away from that as the world inevitably opens up. But at the end of the day, in this country, TV money is crucial to the AFL and both the NRL. There are 2 major sports. They would not, and I swear to you, they would not cancel a game or delay a game at all costs. However they can avoid it, they would do that. And I feel this was probably Manchester United flexing their muscle as a big club, and perhaps because it was a midweek game against Brentford. I wonder if this was a Champions League game against PSG, would we have had the same outcome? Because I tell you, Tom, I don't think we would have. But I'm with you. I think we just need to move on from it. So let me ask you then, I will come to a few comments, and I will ask you about the Brighton match, because this comment's absolutely brilliant. A Swansea-type player is Omricon. Reminds me of Michu. Prolific for a year, but a new flavour will come in next year. Yeah, absolutely. I've got Emad. Omricon is like Martial, a lot of potential, but won't eventuate to anything. Oh, brilliant stuff. And we've got Dylan Hyle. All right. Well, if you are tuning in, this isn't Sky News discovering your latest COVID-19 update. We are here to talk about Manchester United, but we are talking about the natural impacts that COVID-19 is having. Tom, the Brighton game. Brighton are now, it's coming out. They're having some players with COVID-19. United are ravished with COVID-19. Carrington's been closed. Is this game going ahead on Saturday? Am I coming to the pub? Am I going to be there drinking a beer with you? Or are we going to watch the Teletubbies? What's going to go on Saturday night? Tell me.
Well, if not, I won't be joining you watching Teletubbies, but feel free, whatever floats your boat. But I have a bad feeling they're going to call it off. I just have a feeling. When it rains, it pours, and maybe that's just the pessimist in me.
If we're going to cancel this game,
no, I'm not cancelling it. I just have a feeling, because things go the way I don't want them to go. I can just see them doing it just to piss me off, type thing, and sort of ruin my Saturday night. Obviously, a few in the chat are going to meet up on Saturday night with us, and sort of really looking forward to it. And I can just see that being ruined by sort of some guys in suits who just want to sort of flex their muscle upstairs, type thing. So ultimately, it should go ahead. Because, again, 2 games, we can't play this Brentford game until ages away. I think the closest they said is maybe March or April, in terms of trying to fit this Brentford game in. So we're going to have the same hurdle with the Brighton fixture. And I think Brighton did they already have a game postponed against Tottenham as well? I think Tottenham. So, Brighton then, they've got 2 games, and then fixture pile up over Christmas. I said, just get on with it. However, in saying that, if I'm a betting man, I think they are going to call it off. But what I would like, call it off now. Let us know now. Let players. There's a couple flying in from America. They were going to watch the Brentford game, then moving up to Manchester to watch the Brighton game. Let people know in advance. Okay, make the decision hard and fast now. Okay, next 2 weeks, no football. That's a stupid decision, but just make it. Don't be making decisions a day before the game. I don't think that helps anyone, in my opinion.
I'm with you. Look, I think the game will go ahead. I think if you look at the presser that United released, it was purely focused on the Brentford game. They didn't ask for the next week of fixtures to be delayed or anything like that. It was purely around Brentford, just given the chaotic nature. I think because they had to go into quarantine. I think the match will go ahead. Who knows? Maybe Charlie Savage gets to make his second appearance for Manchester United. It'll be what will be interesting.
I think that's a part of it. Sorry, what was that?
Well, like, which players have COVID? Like, that's the interesting bit. Yeah. We don't know how this is impacting the squad. So if we're sitting here doing a match preview, I don't know. I don't know who's got the Rona. So who knows?
But that's the thing. You have to just treat it almost. People saying, "Oh, it's unfair if this team has 7 cases, this team has 4 cases." What if a team has 4 injuries or 7 injuries? I know an illness is a little bit different to an injury, but treat it as an injury. Okay, get a big squad, get your youth team. This is a chance for... Look, Marcus Rashford would not have a career at Manchester United if Anthony Martial and Will Keane weren't injured. Marcus Rashford wouldn't have come into that team at that time. Ultimately, that's what he needed. He needed a little bit of luck with, I think Will Keane was injured and Martial was ill, or vice versa. You need a little bit of luck sometimes, and that might be Charlie Savage's door, sort of thing. So I'm praying we see United, and I don't care if it's Ronaldo up front or Charlie Savage in behind the stroke. I don't care who. I just want to see 11 people out there in a United shirt.
Anthony Elanga or Cristiano Ronaldo, we will be there. We're hoping for a United game. Tom, Anthony Rudiger, I have to ask you about it. This one's gaining momentum. United clearly have some sort of interest in the player. He's a good defender. Is he elite, world class? I'm not sure. I put him much in the Eric Bailly mold, maybe a little bit more reliable. Absolutely. Definitely more reliable. But I look at him. Is he the best of the best? Does he improve our defense? Is he better than Harry Maguire? 1, is he better than Harry Maguire? 2, does he improve our defense? 3, should United be trying to make this still happen?
I think that you mentioned all these names there, and the one name we always forget to mention at the moment is Rafael Varane. We do have a decent defender at our club. Unfortunately, we just haven't seen him too often. Hopefully, he is back quite soon. But it's one of those ones years ago, I would have said, I can see the club doing that. Whether I agree with it or disagree with it, I can see the club doing that decision. I just don't know what Ralph Rangnick's thinking. I don't know what he's thinking short term. I don't have no idea what he's thinking long term. Obviously, every single player who's ever played against Red Bull Leipzig have been linked with Man United. Obviously, Rudiger's German type thing, so I can understand the link. And obviously, he's out of contract. You can sort of put 2 and 2 together. I just don't know what Rangnick is thinking. Is this his sign? Is the club signing? It's a weird one. Does he improve us? Yes, he's a good defender. He's better than some of the defenders we have. But then ultimately, you do have to look at the situation you find yourselves in. If you bring that defender in, well, he's going to have to play. Then what happens? Okay, you've got Rafael Varane, you've got Harry Maguire, club captain. I think it adds, in my opinion, on the outlook, without thinking too much about it. Obviously, I didn't even hear the link. You sort of said 2 minutes before we went on air, you sort of told me about some of the tweets going out. On the outlook, I'm not a huge fan of it. And that's not to say I don't like the player. For me, there's more pressing issues for me.
Yeah, can't disagree there. Look, I think maybe I'm ignoring the obvious name. Eric Bailly's not getting a lot of game time. Phil Jones likely to leave the club. So if you're looking at it from that perspective, Ted and Mengi, Tuanzebe, are they going to be in United squad next season? You're probably thinking no. So I think it's a wait and see on that one. Tom, 3-2-1s. We might as well give the loyal listeners an update on where this is. So please, I'll give you the honours.
Yeah, well, just because there's potentially no football, we thought we'd sort of throw back to when United did play football games, and sort of we did hand out 3-2-1s. And I'll go to the top 3 in a little bit. I'll just sort of give some honourable mentions for people who do have points, who you might think, how on earth did they get a point? But coming not last, because obviously some people don't have points, but the player with the least amount of points, Jesse Lingard's got 1 point. Off the top of your head, do you remember when he got a point? Or would it maybe West Ham, that goal? He might have got a point for that. Maybe Harsh only get a point for that match winner in the top corner, but Jesse Lingard has a point. Paul Pogba is only on 3 points with Marcus Rashford. Rafael Varane is on 4 points. Nemanja Matic has 6 points. There's about 15 players in there, so the points are spread around. But I will go to the top 3. Larry, do you know who is in 3rd position? We obviously know the top 2, but 3rd position would be, any guesses?
Bruno Fernandes.
Bruno is in 4th. Bruno is on actually 8 points. Bruno is tied with Darren Wan-Bissaka and Donny van der Beek, all on 8 points. So Donny van der Beek and Wan-Bissaka have done well to match Bruno, and Bruno's points all came in that first couple of games of the season, especially his hat-trick against Leeds. But in 3rd place is Mason Greenwood on 9 points.
Wow. Okay.
And then the table does change. My dog is having a fight with his ear. You okay? He's good now. But Ronaldo is on 21 points.
Wow. Big gap there.
So Mason Greenwood is in 3rd on 9 points and Ronaldo in 2nd on 21. And you're talking about a big gap. David De Gea is leading the race on 31 points. He is 10 points clear of Ronaldo.
Ooh.
I'm just thinking that when you see De Gea as our player of the season, now hopefully that does change by May, but at the moment he's been our player of the season. What's your initial reaction? Is it, oh, that's good, we've got a good keeper, I'm proud, I love him, he's been at the club for a while, he's playing well, that's good? Or is your initial reaction, why is our goalkeeper the best player? Why is he that busy? Which one's your first reaction?
Well, I actually think the latter. I think, why is my goalkeeper that busy? Look, I think when you win a premiership, there will always be a game where your keeper's winning your points. Absolutely. That happens. And Edwin van der Sar is one I can think. He comes to mind. I recall, which season was it? Was it the 08-09 season? We kept 14 clean sheets on the bounce.
Defensive record, yeah.
That doesn't happen without a great goalkeeper. And yes, he had a bloody fair defense in front of him too. But he definitely was a major factor in that. And you don't win a premiership because you can't. Even with the best squad in the world, you cannot be on every single match. It just doesn't happen. There's two teams in a game of football. Sometimes they upset your rhythm. Sometimes your team in there is not match fit. Sometimes players have a bad day at the office. When I look at David De Gea, though, and this is the thing that frustrates me, and it's probably why I get stuck in this debate around, is he the best goalkeeper in the world? Or it's probably why I stop short of this. David De Gea has his best seasons for United when United as a whole is performing poorly. And I would just like to, and that's not a criticism of him. That's not his fault. I just would like to see David De Gea be a front foot goalkeeper where United are doing well and he's doing well. Because the seasons where we've finished second or managed to scrape fourth, he's not in that discussion. Can we have a season where David De Gea is being good, not needing to be busy, but United can still mount a title challenge? I think that's the concern for me.
When he leaves, obviously he's going to sort of, I think this is his 10th season now, I think. He came in that 11-12. So, he's going to get his testimonial at the end of this season or be eligible for that. We're obviously going to have a debate, okay, where does he rank amongst United sort of great goalkeepers? And the other two names there will obviously be Edward van der Sar and Peter Schmeichel. Ultimately, I don't think De Gea will win that debate down to trophies. I think you look at what the other two players won and you think that puts them above. However, if you just look at goalkeeping and ability and what the goalkeeper had to do, there is a case that De Gea has been our best goalkeeper. I know there was a little sort of, I wouldn't even call it a bad patch, or it was a bad patch. Maybe one or two seasons he wasn't the best in the world. And that maybe is fresh in the minds of people. But overall, since he's come in 2011, you have to think he was our player of the season, 4 years or 3 years in a row, or 4 out of 5 years type thing. Ultimately, there is a case. Take away the trophies and just goalkeeping skills. There's a case he's been our greatest ever goalkeeper, in my opinion.
Look, I think with Schmeichel was a phenomenal goalkeeper. I think just the way he made himself large, the way he came off his line, I thought Schmeichel was a more well-rounded goalkeeper. Edwin van der Sar, I don't actually think was a brilliant shot stopper. I thought he's overall, like he was one of those, he was great with the ball, Edwin van der Sar. When I think of him, yes, and he pulled out some magnificent saves. He was a better penalty saver than David De Gea, I will say that. But I look at Van der Sar, and I don't know if maybe this was me, like, I watched him in my teenage years. Maybe I'm not giving him the respect he deserves. I thought he was a fantastic goalkeeper. But I look at Edwin van der Sar, and I'm like, he had a lot go right for him. He had a world-class defense in front of him. United played on the front foot a lot. He wasn't, yes, he definitely saved goals, but is he the shot stopper De Gea is, or did he command his line the way Schmeichel did? I'd have to say no. But he was better with the ball than both of those. So just what do you value in a goalkeeper?
The job of the goalkeeper, ultimately, the job of the goalkeeper is to save the ball, ultimately. But they're three different generations of goalkeepers, all three very different jobs. And it would have been, De Gea wouldn't have coped in the early 90s, which Peter Schmeichel wouldn't cope now. That's just the life of football, in my opinion.
Well, if you were ranking those three now, in what order would you put it? I know you're saying, yes, there's a debate to be had, but from where, if you're going 1, 2, 3 today, how would you be scaling? Yeah. Forget what they've achieved as in their teams, just looking purely at the goalkeeping ability.
It's hard. There's no correct answer. I could make a case De Gea being first and Schmeichel being third, but then I think about that. I say that out loud, and I think, no, Schmeichel should be first, De Gea should be third. I'll probably throw Van der Sar in second. He gets a sort of comfortable second, in my opinion. But then how can I say, well, he should be first, or no, he should be last? I'm not quite sure. With my Man United hat on, I do have to look at what Peter Schmeichel achieved and the importance of sort of having that goalkeeper in that early stage of the Premier League and sort of winning those titles and sort of culminating in Barcelona for the Champions League title. Schmeichel probably does go top of the list for me, which then unfortunately puts David De Gea third. But I just said, well, in my opinion, De Gea, there's a very strong case that goalkeeping-wise could be the greatest ever goalkeeper. Just it's unfortunate that he's sort of been in such a poor team for a large part of the time, because he came in and came second in his first season on goal difference, then won the Premier League title the next season. And then after that, it's just been downhill. He's been sort of a sitting duck in a shooting range.
Yeah. Yeah, he has. But look, this debate might all change in 12 months because United will win the Champions League this season. And after that happens, then we're talking about David De Gea being a Champions League winner. Well, then all three of them are Champions League winners. So there you go. Maybe it doesn't add anything to the debate there. But look, I think we will leave it there. So if you have been tuning in, cheers. Make sure you like the video. If you are new here, make sure you do subscribe. Tom, I think it's been a good chat. Are we any closer to where we sit in the... Look, I'm still going to come on here, defend Martial, tell you his world-class potential, and I'll still probably be calling him to start against Brighton. But I thought it was a good chat.
Look, just to quickly go on it, you can see that with Paul Pogba. You said you're done with Paul Pogba. I said I'm done with Paul Pogba. He'll come back in his first game and you think, he's a player. He's much better than what we have in midfield. Then we'll be saying, well, the club maybe should keep him. We toss and turn until
it's the hope that kills you. You know, it really is the hope that kills you. I'm sitting here and I'm like, Ralph Rangnick might just actually make Paul Pogba, give him the work rate the midfielder should have. And I'm going to suddenly see this Paul Pogba. You know what, Tom? He's the weirdest player in the sense it's not like he's not inconsistent to the level of, say, a Martial. With Pogba, it's almost, you know what he needs? Just someone to simplify his game. Paul, we know you can do a step over. Don't do it. We just want you to pass. And when you get into this area of the field, I want you to shoot. That's it. And if someone could actually manage to get that into his head, he'd be the best midfielder on the planet.
Take personalities out of it. Take his thoughts about it completely out of it. If Paul Pogba was in a midfield with Roy Keane, I could see that working. I could see Paul Pogba flourishing. A lot of people think no, Roy Keane would kill him. Obviously, maybe one or two training sessions could get a bit feisty. But ultimately, I think if Paul Pogba was sitting next to Roy Keane, let's put Pogba back 20 years and a different game and sort of the attributes he does have in a two-man midfield, I think he'd be an absolute monster next to Roy Keane.
Yeah, can't disagree with you there. But yeah, let us know what you guys think. Where do you sit on the Martial debate, the Paul Pogba debate? Do you think either player should stay? Do you think they should go? And what do you think on the 3-2-1s? Do you think David De Gea will run away with it, or will Ronaldo leap his way into first place? Or maybe you think it'll be someone else. Maybe Mason will have a strong end to the season, or maybe Bruno will, be Magnifico again and find his way up there. Tom, it's been a pleasure, mate. I'll see you on Pro Clubs in a little bit. And if you have been tuning in, cheers for that. And we'll see you hopefully after. Mate, are we going to do a Brighton preview? Should we do a Brighton preview?
I don't care about the preview, but if the match is on or the match is off, I'll be at the pub on Saturday night. I don't care. I'll pretend there's a game on.
I'll see you Saturday. You'll see us when we see us. There'll be a video at some point over the weekend. So cheers, and we'll catch you then.